Good morning, everyone.
Hi, Simona. Hello. Yay.
I'm glad we're here, but I think we're still missing Leslie, right?
Yeah, here I am. I finally just got on, everybody. Hi.
Hi, Leslie.
Everybody.
It's so great to hear you all. I can't tell you how much I've missed you guys.
Me too.
Welcome
Leslie.
to Catskills, a bi-weekly podcast delivering interviews, arts, culture, and history from New York's Catskill Mountains. This week, I'm joined by 4 Catskills writers, teachers, and board members, past and present, of Writers in the Mountains, a nonprofit organization whose mission is to provide a nurturing environment for the practice, appreciation, and sharing of creative writing. Simona David is a media consultant, author of How Art is Made in the Catskills, published in 2017, and former president of Writers in the Mountains. She's currently working as an advisor to the board. Sharon Israel hosts the radio show Planet Poet, Words in Space on Roxbury's WIOX, and she hosts a podcast by the same name. Her debut chapbook, Voice Lesson, was published in 2017 by Post Traumatic Press, and she's been on the Writers in the Mountains board of directors for over a decade. Anique Sarah Taylor is a Pushcart Prize nominee. Her work has appeared in Rattle, Common Ground Review, Stillwater Review, Earth's Daughters, and several anthologies. She's co-authored works for HBO, Scholastic, Simon & Schuster, and a 3-act play that was performed by Playwrights Horizons and Williamstown Theater Festival. She teaches creative writing for a regional oncology support program, Bard Lifetime Learning Institute, and Writers in the Mountains. And last but not least, Leslie T. Sharp is a lifelong naturalist living in the Great Western Catskills. Her book, The Quarry Fox and Other Critters of the Wild Catskills, is an independent book publisher Gold Medal Award winner for excellence. And I had the pleasure of producing the audiobook edition, beautifully narrated by Leslie, and available wherever audiobooks are found. In 2019, Leslie was named one of the 50 stewards of the Catskills. She's taught writing and editing at Columbia University, New York University, the City College of New York, and currently at Writers in the Mountains. After checking in and catching up, we began our conversation on Writers in the Mountains. Obviously, there's a lot of really positive things that are coming out of this organization. Can we go back and just start with some of the basics? Where is it based? Who does it serve? Can you break down the types of things that Writers in the Mountains is offering and who it's appealing to?
Writers in the Mountains was founded almost 3 decades ago in Roxbury, about 1992, to promote literary arts in the Catskills and beyond. Over the years, the organization has grown into a major cultural force, in the region by significantly expanding its programs and outreach anywhere between, Kingston and Delhi. In addition to its core mission to offer creative writing workshops year-round, actually, WIM has ventured into other arenas as well. In 2014, we started an annual Catskills Literary Festival. Unfortunately, the pandemic was just getting started and we had to cancel that. We also used to host a very popular quarterly literary salon called Random Context to bring together a variety of publishing professionals, kind of like the Literary Festival, but at a smaller scale. Writers, illustrators, editors, literary agents, educators, consultants, publishers, offering them a space to network, exchange ideas, create community, really.
All of you are past or present board members, but you're also teachers. Can you give us a sense of the classes that are offered and who's signing up for them?
In my own case, I've been teaching a nature writing workshop, obviously coming out of the Quarry Fox, which has been very popular. And, I would teach it over at the Delaware County Historical Association, and people would come that same day from Albany. People come from Cooperstown. And I also did a class that was a one-day seminar, which was really the art of proposal writing, the nonfiction book, how to take your nonfiction book, whether it was memoir or even a how-to, and how to basically find an agent if you wanted to be commercially published. I will say I've met some incredibly wonderful people.
WIM has given us the opportunity to bring in semester-long graduate school level classes into a writing community setting. And this is really a revolutionary concept to have that intensity at community availability. And it's given the students opportunity to study craft as they would in graduate school with the time to integrate learning and growth. And many are working on full-length books. Our students range from beginners to professional writers, and some have the long-range projects, others have shorter pieces, and still others are either emerging or re-emerging or exploring a relationship with writing. Writers in the Mountains seems to attract writers at all different levels, and they are incredible. They're curious, they're open, they're devoted, they're supportive of each other, and they want very much to learn. They work very hard. And with the advent of online classes, we've expanded. So we have an incredible brocade. It's really impressive what they've been able to accomplish. Every week, I just can't wait to hear what they're going to bring in.
And so the classes range from everything from a one-off seminar to a weekend workshop to, as you say, semester-long graduate level classes. How do you integrate those into the work that you're doing?
I'm in a group with my husband called Orphic Mix. He's the composer, and we set poems to his music, and we're sort of mutual muses. So one of the things we presented at the Zadok Pratt Museum in Prattsville was a workshop performance where we performed, and then we had a workshop after that. It was a very intimate workshop at the museum itself, and the prompts were the artwork that were surrounding us as we had the workshop. I was just recently trained in the Amherst method for artists and writers. It's a generative workshop format, and everybody listens and gleans what they like from the work. And then you can bring back more edited pieces for more complex critiques. That was a very successful experience, and it brought a lot of people who have never written a word. And that was like, I was levitating with the beauty of the work that was produced.
That speaks to Wayne's mission and the effort the organization has put into building partnerships with other organizations as well in the Catskills, like the Catskills Center, the Pratt Museum, and others, to enrich the Catskills cultural life. The Artist Writer Talk series that we organized in 2017 in partnership with the Catskills Center. It was called The Arts Converge, Mutual Music in the Catskills, and it was hosted at the Catskill Interpretive Center. We paired a writer with a visual artist or a composer to a great effect. For instance, Leslie is a nature writer. She was in a conversation with a nature photographer, Rod Hubble. I shared excerpts from my book of interviews with Catskill artists, and a bunch of them were there: Lisbeth Furman, Marvin Levinson, two painters, a ceramicist, Peter Yamaoka, and the textile artist, Tabitha Gilmore Barnes. They were all there sharing their work while I was dissecting the artistic process, what inspires them, kind of like, featuring some of the interviews that were included in my book. So I thought this was a very successful program as well, but the pandemic has put a lot of these programs on pause.
What does the Catskills bring to the literary table and the artistic table? What is it about these mountains that make them unique and bring creative people together?
I think, first of all, there's an extraordinary sense of place. We know that regions like the South can give you great writers like a William Faulkner, and that's very important. And then there are some places where place really is what comes out of you, like Proust. But here, the physical surroundings are always going to seep in and shape us and really open our heart and mind to new and unique landscapes. I think that what that sense of place and as a physical sense is a gift that the Catskills really gives writers living in our, let's call it our creative hearts, and struggling to clarify our thoughts and to find the right words can often leave us feeling unmoored. I know it does me. But the elements here, a thunderstorm or a bluestone boulder out back, these have a way of tethering us to something real and greater and more permanent than ourselves. And I think another important aspect is really history is alive and evident, and it really has a singular kind of amalgam. It's the intertwining of human history with that of our natural world. You know, we're living in America's first great wilderness, celebrated by Thomas Cole, the Hudson River School, and we know that world disappeared by the mid-19th century, you know, due to the tanning industry, you know, and other unfettered economic development. But those hills of ours have regenerated, even though we still face challenges today with so many issues for our forests that have to do with the changing climate. But I think it's important to remember that here in the Catskills, the first American school of painting, Thomas Cole, the Hudson River School, was founded. This is the site of the short story genre. This is the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, Rip Van Winkle, Washington Irving. And of course, it's the home of nature writing, John Burroughs, who, after all, came out of Roxbury, which is the home of Writers in the Mountains, where it started and where it's continued. And I also wanted to sort of pay a little tribute to Susan Fenimore Cooper. I mean, she's our neighbor, it's Otsego, but she's the daughter of James Fenimore, and she was the first woman to publish nature writing, Rural Hours, it was called, which is a journal of Cooperstown's seasonal days. And that was a very strong influence on both Burroughs and Thoreau. And all of us who make art here in the Catskills stand on the shoulders of these pioneers, we can call them. But I think for me, it's a personal history is even more immediate and even more telling. I find it every day in the land that I live on. You know, I've collected arrowheads left by the Lenni Lenape. I've discovered pot lids in bluestone rubble, foundation of an old sap house. I reclaimed recently a plow abandoned by a farmer who tried to cultivate this unforgiving land of ours. And most affecting to me are the stone walls, boundary markers, gravestones, sheep pens, you know, really fragments of another time, of the lives of people who lived, who went before me. And these give me an extraordinary sense of humbleness and a perspective. And I think more than anything, if you live and write here, what the Catskills do is teach us to see, to listen, to explore, and to be curious. You know, this landscape, this history helps hone those senses that are so essential to writing. And I guess if I had to sum up what the Catskills offer artists, I would say it's the inspiration of nature, whether we're nature writers or not. You know, it's the solace of silence.
That's true.
And the perspective of time. That is so important in our own lives and in our lives as writers. And above all, it gives us the solitude needed to create. What these hills did like was a community of like-minded creative souls, all of us struggling and exuberant, celebratory. And that's what Writers in the Mountains has done, because as important as these things that I just talked about, including solace and solitude, which we so need, we really need to find a way to break out of that, to find a balance. And I think that's what the key of this organization is. For those of us who are Catskill writers, and of course the organization has now gone beyond Catskills, but the roots are there. The roots are there in our place, and the roots are there in our history. You know, the rocks, the streams, the critters that are so companionable for me, they forced me to write about them. I did not come up here, I'm going to write a book. It was like I had to write because they were whispering to me, tell the world about us.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Catskills have inspired artists and writers for generations, because artists and also writers not only learn from one another and give and receive feedback, but they also gain validation and position themselves in relation to our works. So they need to be surrounded by like-minded individuals, like Leslie was pointing out, kind of like balancing the solitude work, like an artist works in the studio, the writers, typewriter or computer. And it's, for the most part, it's solitary work, but these types of creatives also need the collectives to go and share their ideas and give and receive feedback. So I'm going to quote a psychologist, Chinzan Mikhaly, who wrote a book called Creativity in 1996. He's actually a leading researcher on creativity. And he explained that creativity is such a central source of meaning in our lives because it enables us to reach that ideal fulfillment that we all aspire to. And according to Chinzan Mikhaly, creativity does not happen inside people's heads. but in the interaction between a person's thoughts and the sociocultural context. That's why I think writers groups, artist collectives are so important to the artistic process, really.
We'll hear poems from two of our guests, plus return to their conversation in just a moment. But first, a word from our sponsors. Catcast is supported by WIOX Community Radio, live and local in the Catskills, reflective, responsive, and supportive, at 91.3 FM, MTC Cable Channel 20, WIOXradio.org, and with any smartphone radio app. Alexa, play WIOX. And by the Central Catskills Chamber of Commerce, providing services to businesses, community organizations, and local governments in the Central Catskills region. Follow the Central Catskills Chamber of Commerce on Facebook and sign up for a weekly email of local events at centralcatskills.org. Orphic Mix is a collaboration of poet Sharon Israel and composer and husband Robert Cuccinota. Here's a piece from that collaboration called Rare Sighting. Rare Sighting is about an unusual appearance of a hawk owl in the Catskills that attracted loads of birders from all over the area.
Rare Sighting. Surnia ulula, more hawk than owl, strayed from his boreal forest to hunt small prey in the Catskills for a while. Perched high on his lookout, his yellow eyes surveying the land for voles and frogs, he seemed ordinary enough, gray and white, not large or small. His genius was subtle. Tiny serrations at the ends of flight feathers silenced his lethal loop, quieting the hunt for unsuspecting prey. Though he did have an unusual cry, a quick swelling ululation, a sound large for his size. Suddenly he took off, swooping down fast, talons out, brushing past heads, just missing eyes, hands, skin.
And a poem by Anique Sarah Taylor called Driving Home.
Trapped as so in stop action, her eyes reflect iridescent in high beams. The doe hesitates on pavement, falters backward into the highway. Confused, she locks me in her gaze, topples ungainly into parallel brightnesses. A stand of birches somewhere beyond my headlights. Hairline tracings, charcoal branches spread across violet sky until the bleached crescent of Cassiopeia's chair scorches incandescent holes into the blackness. Hungry to unearth my own invisible map, I trace the weary pinpoints I used to know. Jealous of the fervent bodies that circle the heavens, so sure of their own orbits, I sing to myself through the night as I drive the rented car into dawn. We've been in the talking stages of developing a literary journal that would highlight students' work and maybe have a section for teachers' work. We're also talking about reawakening the literary cell on Random Context, which was wonderful. It was quarterly with a featured reader at the distillery in Arkville. And so that brought in Caesared writers, aspiring writers from all over several counties. And it was a chance for writers to meet and hang out and chat.
And drink.
And drink. Yes, definitely. And
Have a lovely vodka over there.
They do.
and so now we're actually talking about starting to have that as a Zoom event.
Do you have an ETA on the literary journal or maybe some names in the mix?
We've been working on methods, like how do we curate, who do we choose, who is it up to, and then will there be separate sections for students and for teachers? But we've gone about halfway down the road on that. Our original opening date was January, so that has passed, but we're working on it.
And now that the pandemic has pushed a lot of this online, how have you seen the makeup of the classes change? Are there a lot more people coming in from outside of the area, both as students and as teachers?
Absolutely. I'm in a class now where people are from New York City, Syracuse, Midwest, someone from Wisconsin, someone from Virginia. This is definitely something new to us, to have people from our states registering. I guess for one reason, it's the instructors, they have a high profile, the quality of the classes, the affordability, and, online it's very easy for people to find us, and it's very easy for them to, register and attend. The pandemic turned us into a national organization, even international, overnight. I do want to emphasize the fact that we continue to focus on our local communities here in the Catskills.
It's also brought in a different demographic, is that there are a few young mothers, also a few people who are working full time, but they're working from home. So we have sort of a new convergence of 30 and 40-year-olds.
Necessity is the mother of invention. And it's just pushed the organization into a more virtual world, which has really expanded its reach. And it's just so wonderful, the new instructors that it has pulled in who can teach.
The pandemic has forced the organization to reinvent itself. After New York went into lockdown in the spring of 2020, we took a pause, then re-emerged with a series of online programs that catapulted the organization into the national limelight virtually overnight. Once we moved our programs online, we were able to invite instructors to teach for us that otherwise would have not been available to. Nationally recognized professionals from New York City, Syracuse, North Carolina, Michigan, other places. Also, the online programs have opened up the opportunity to our writers to attend as well, in addition to our local communities here in the Catskills. Consequently, our literary community has grown bigger and moreover happier because we get to learn from each other and grow professionally at a different pace, which makes the experience ever more fulfilling.
When we've gotten back to some kind of normalcy, do you think that you'll have a combination of both in-person and online offerings?
When the world opens up, I definitely intend to continue my class online. And I'm hoping that will encourage and make it possible for some of that demographic to continue with us. We love them.
Will there be in-person classes again? Who here is looking forward to those?
I think a hybrid is definitely something that can be done. It's not one or the other. I think that there are just so many opportunities now.
Absolutely. At a certain point, we have to resume some in-person activities, but too soon to tell when and how. But I think the online programs are here to stay and probably run some hybrid programs.
And your event at the Union Grove Distillery, that one has to be in person again.
Yes.
I think my one achievement as a board member of WIM was suggesting that we have the festival at the Union Grove Distillery.
That's a pretty big achievement. That's a great venue.
Should I mention this? It's such a crazy idea. And I'm so glad I got the courage up to say, why don't we have it at the distillery?
And it's a great location in terms of centrality to the whole Catskills region, right there in Arkville. So for all of the upcoming classes and workshops, the place to go is writersinthemountains.org. But I also just want to go around and ask you for your own personal website so that if anyone wants to get in touch and see your own work, where can they find you? Sharon?
You can go to my website, Sharon Israel, Israel, SharonIsraelPoet.com. And you can also hear my podcasts on WIOX radio in the Catskills. It's called Planet Poet Words in Space. And I have archived shows on the website. You just have to click Planet Poet or go to any platform to hear the shows.
Great. Anik?
I can be reached at AnikSarahTaylor.com. Anik is antique without the T. Sarah has no H, and Taylor is just the regular old Taylor. AnikSarahTaylor.com. Come visit.
Simona, how do we find you, Simona?
My website is simonadavid.com.
Thank you. Well, that was short and sweet. And Leslie?
Well, unfortunately, my website hasn't been built yet because of the pandemic. Simone is going to do that for me. But I'm pretty active on Twitter and on Facebook. The easiest way is just to go to @CatskillCritter. That is my Twitter handle, and people reach me that way.
I think there's light at the end of the tunnel and not too far away, so hopefully we'll be able to all meet again in person. But in the meantime, thank you for wrestling with the technology this morning and joining us for this conversation. This has been great.
Thank you so much, Brett. Now I'm watching out my window as the snow is covering the black oil sunflower seed I put out, and Mr. and Mrs. Cardinal are getting more and more despondent. So I know what work I have to do. Keep feeding my critters.
To hear more about those Catskill critters, download Catscast Episode 14 for a sample of Leslie's audiobook, The Quarry Fox. For more information on Writers in the Mountains and to register for classes, go to writersinthemountains.org. Upcoming classes include creative nonfiction, confessionals, spontaneous prose, cut-ups, jazz poetry, and picture poems, writing under the influence of the Beat Generation, The Animals of Our Lives, a poetry workshop, and micro-memoir. Catscast is a production of Silver Hollow Audio. Production intern and dialogue editor, Sky Roos. Please be sure to subscribe wherever podcasts are found for automatic downloads of our upcoming shows. And follow us on Instagram @Catscast. I'm Brett Barry. Thanks for listening.